Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajagacharya Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON BBD Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajagacharya Shishimada's Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnavrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Gita Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Ganga Jamuna Maya Ki Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtana Ki Brihat Madanga Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Shri. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 4, text 30. Tatapi Bhata Me Daya Hi Atma Cha Eva Atmana Vibhu Asampana Eva Abati Brahma Varchasa Satama. Okay. Tatapi Bhata Me Dayo. Tatapi Bhata Me Dayo. Yatma Chaivatmana Vibhu. Yatma Chaivatmana Vibhu. Asampana Ivabati. Asampana Ivabati. Brahma Varchasya Satama. Brahma Varchasya Satama. Tatapi Bhata Me Dayo. Yatma Chaivatmana Vibhu. Asampana Ivabati. Brahma Varchasya Satama. Others? Oh. Vaishnavis? Okay. Tatapi, although, bhata, defect, me, mine, Daya, situated in the body. He, certainly. Atma, living being. Cha, and. Eva, even. Atmana, myself. Vibhu, sufficient. Asampana, wanting in. Eva abati, it appears to be. Brahma Varchasya, of the Vedantis. Satama, the Supreme. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. I am feeling, this is Srila Vyasadeva speaking. Actually, he's not speaking. He's thinking. It mentions in the previous couple of verses previous to that. It says here, thus the sage, being satisfied at heart, at once began to reflect because he knew the essence of religion, and he said within himself. So, in other words, this is Vyasadeva, we're hearing his thoughts. It's actually Sutta Goswami, I guess, who's speaking. So anyway, it says, I am feeling incomplete, though I myself am fully equipped with everything required by the Vedas. Purport. Undoubtedly, Srila Vyasadeva was complete in all the details of Vedic achievements. Purification of the living being submerged in matter is made possible by the prescribed activities in the Vedas. But the ultimate achievement is different. Unless it is attained, the living being, even though fully equipped, cannot be situated in the transcendentally normal stage. Srila Vyasadeva appeared to have lost the clue and therefore felt dissatisfaction. Om Agina Timanandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshudam Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. So, before I actually start talking about the verse and purport, I want to just present some background information that hopefully will inspire us to pay even closer attention to this part of the Bhagavatam that we're studying. So the title of this chapter is called The Appearance of Sri Narada. And we're close to the end of the chapter. And he hasn't appeared yet. Okay? It's actually, we're on verse 30. He appears, there's 33 verses in this chapter, and he appears verse 32. So, the second to last verse of the chapter is where he appears. But I take that to mean that he's so important, Narada Muni is so important, that even though he's appearing in the second to last verse of the chapter, still the chapter gets named after him, the appearance of Narada. He's that important. So this is like a really amazing part of the Bhagavatam. I mean, the whole Bhagavatam is amazing, but this is a really amazing part of the Bhagavatam. I mean, this is like where the Bhagavatam kind of blasts off into space, pardon the expression. I mean, you got to stop and think about who we're just about to hear from. This is a conversation between Narada Muni and Srila Vyasadeva. Okay, Srila Vyasadeva is minimally an empowered jiva. It's described in the Vishnu Purana, and also it's corroborated in the Vayu Purana that there's a Vyasadeva in every cycle of millennium. At the beginning of every Kali Yuga, there's a Vyasadeva. Okay, generally it's an empowered jiva. Okay, in the 28th round of millennium, 28th round of the millenniums. Okay, the Vyasadeva is an expansion of Vishnu himself. That's in the Vayu Purana. Okay, so that's the round of millenniums that we're in. Of course, even an empowered jiva is pretty good, but the Vyasadeva who just appeared, or still really, I think Vyasadeva is one of the personalities that's still alive someplace today. He's an expansion of Vishnu, direct expansion of Vishnu. He's not just an empowered jiva. So, very super elevated personality. In two texts from now, in text 32 in the purport, Prabhupada says, Vyasadeva, he refers to him as an empowered divinity. So, it's pretty exalted. Okay, so that's Vyasadeva. And there's so many other, if you go through if you look in the back in the index and you look up Vyasadeva, you'll find, so many other references where, Prabhupada, there's one where he says Vyasadeva and Krishna are on the same level. Basically, he's right up there with Krishna. It doesn't get any higher. And as far as Narada Muni goes, Narada Muni is also a very special personality. He's the son of Lord Brahma, and he's been doing his service for a real long time. Let's see, find what I'm looking for here. Sometimes we hear about, say somebody asks, Prabhu, how long are you doing book distribution? And the devotee says, I've been doing it for 10 years. Oh, really? 10 years? Wow. Or if somebody says 20 years, you go, whoa, 20 years? Or even, 30? Wow. Narada Muni's been doing this service. If you take it at face, in a superficial way, Narada Muni's been doing this service of being a spiritual master and distributing not books, but Krishna consciousness for 4,300,000,000 years. Yeah. Here's a statement that kind of supports that. He says, this is Narada Muni speaking, because, we're coming into the part of the Bhagavatam here where Vyasadeva at some point, what happens is this. Vyasadeva is mentioned here as, he's feeling, he says, a little incomplete. And he actually knows the problem himself, because in the very next verse, in the very next text, he's still thinking, and he goes, this may be, he knows why he's feeling dissatisfied and not, as he says, in his own words, feeling incomplete. Because he says, because I did not specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, which is dear both to the perfect beings and to the infallible Lord. So he already knows. Vyasadeva already knows why he's not feeling completely satisfied or why he's feeling incomplete. And anyway, so Narada Muni, but then Narada Muni appears on the scene, and he asks him, what's the root cause? Oh, no, first, actually something interesting happens before that. So Narada Muni appears on the scene. Vyasadeva is very pleased to see him. He greets him properly, offers him a seat or shows him respect and everything. And he kind of reveals his mind a little bit. And actually, I don't even think he reveals his mind a little bit. Narada Muni starts off, he says, so are you satisfied identifying the mind and the body as objects of self-realization? Almost to kind of like, and and Vyasadeva realized that, well, he can't hide anything from Narada Muni, so. But then he goes on to ask him, he says, well, what's the root cause of my dissatisfaction? And basically Narada Muni tells Vyasadeva exactly what Vyasadeva, was thinking. That, you've neglected to glorify, you've neglected to emphasize the importance of devotional service. You've neglected to glorify Krishna. You've emphasized Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, in the Mahabharata, and you've explained all about the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth, Brahman realization in the Vedanta Sutra. And you did a lot of, good stuff like that, but you didn't kind of like take it to the conclusion. You didn't really directly glorify and encourage people in glorifying Krishna and engaging in devotional service, and that's why you're feeling like that. And there's a verse earlier on in the second chapter of the Bhagavatam where Sutta Goswami is addressing the sages of Naimisharanya, headed by Shonaka Rishi or Shonaka Muni, and he confirms that same understanding. He says, Dharma svanustistat pumsam vikshvakshenu gatasuyat nodpadayad yadhi ratim shrama evahi kevalam, that occupational duties performed by men. Now don't forget, he's saying that 5,000 years ago. So, when he's talking about occupational duties 5,000 years ago, Sutta Goswami, he's not talking about whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a longshoreman, an electrician, or software engineer. He's talking he's talking about occupational duties back then meant whether you're a Brahmin, a Kshatriya, a Vaishya, a Sudra. He's talking about, you know, the Varnashram, the occupational duties of the Varnashram system, which are meant here, which are described someplace here. They're meant for, I think it even says it in this, they're meant for purifying. See, purification of living beings submerged in matter is made possible by prescribed activities in the Vedas. So it's referring to the, you know, the Varnashram there, okay? So Sutta Goswami is making the point that even if you are engaged in the occupational duties prescribed in the Vedas, you know, for which are meant for purification, it's acknowledged here. Purification of living beings submerged in matter is made possible by those prescribed activities in the Vedas, right? But how's it going? Shrama, if they don't provoke an attraction for hearing the messages of Vasudeva, even if you engage in your occupational duty as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, but you don't do it in such a way, some sit here at Haritoshanam, that, you know, Krishna is pleased, the Supreme Lord is pleased, and you don't, if you don't awaken an attraction for hearing the messages of Vasudeva, then it's Shrama Evi Kevalam. You see? So that's the point that's being made here. You know, that's the point Narada Muni makes to Vyasadeva. So he tells him that. You know, he tells him that in some fabulous verses describing that. And then he goes on to, you know, he elaborates upon that. And basically Vyasadeva is just blown away. Pardon the expression. He is so impressed. Narada Muni just kind of like, really, just lays it out so beautifully, describes, you know, the whole devotional service and how to engage in devotional. He just explains everything so nicely that by the time he's finished, Vyasadeva is just like, holy smoke, man! Wow, that was awesome. I mean, you know, to put it in modern day vernacular, he was so impressed that he just couldn't help. It was like, you know, like when you hear somebody give an amazing class or something like that, you just kind of like, you don't even know what to say. It was like that. So much so that he really didn't have a question for him. He just, how'd you become so advanced? He basically asked him, please tell me about your life. Tell me how, you know, how did you get to where you are now? You know, he wants to know everything he could possibly know about Narada Muni. So Narada Muni does that. He obliges, and he talks to Vyasadeva. He describes his whole life to Vyasadeva, you know, and which in previous classes I've kind of mentioned, so I'm not going to say, you know, touch upon anything I said previously in any previous class now, but some additional information, you know, where I left off in a previous class is that, so it gets to the point where, you know, Narada Muni, he tells him about in his past life as the son of a maidservant and how his mother got bit by a snake, and he took it as an, benediction of the Lord, and he went off and anyway, and then he was meditating in a lonely place, and Krishna revealed himself. He saw Krishna in his meditation. I hope this lady here is seeing Krishna in her meditation. But then all of a sudden he didn't see Krishna anymore, and he became, what happened, you know? And then he tried again and again and again, and couldn't, you know, get that same vision of Krishna again. And then he heard a voice, and Krishna told him, you know, I'm sorry, but you're not complete in devotional service. I did this because I wanted to encourage you, but you're not complete in devotional service, and because you're not really complete in devotional service, you know, you're not going to see me again in this lifetime, but, you know, don't worry that whatever, you know, next lifetime, you're going to be liberated like that. So anyway, so at that point, that after that, what happens after that, Narada Muni describes himself. You know, he says, then that supreme authority personified by sound and unseen by eyes, but most wonderful, stopped speaking. And he gave him a few instructions, and then he stopped speaking. Feeling a sense of gratitude, I offered my obeisances unto him, bowing my head. Thus I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the material world. Such chanting and remembering of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are benedictory. So doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied, humble, and unenvious. And so, O Brahman Vyasadeva, in due course of time, I, who was fully absorbed in thinking of Krishna, and who therefore had no attachments, being completely freed from all material taints, met with death, as lightning and illumination occur simultaneously. And then he goes on to explain, having been awarded a transcendental body befitting an associate of the personality of Godhead, I quit the body made of 5 elements, and thus all acquired fruit of results of work, karma, stop. And Prabhupada says in the first line of the purport, Prabhupada says, informed by the personality of Godhead that he would be awarded a transcendental body befitting the Lord's association, Narada got his spiritual body as soon as he quit his material body. See, so anyway, that's just a little background information on Narada Muni. Now, I started off by saying that Narada Muni has been doing his service for a long time, since the beginning of this day of Lord Brahma, because he goes on to say, I think he mentions, he says, after 4,300,000,000 solar years, when Brahma awoke to create again by the will of the Lord, all the rishis like Marichi, Angira, Atri, and so on were created from the transcendental body of the Lord, and I also appeared along with them. You see, so he appeared along with Lord Brahma. So he's there right at the beginning of the day of Lord Brahma, and we're about 2 million, actually, maybe that's it. Oh, okay, that was right. So Lord Brahma, the night of Lord Brahma is that length. I made a mistake in my mathematics here. Brahma's full day is 8,600,000,000 years long. So his night is 4.3 billion, and his day is 4.3 million. So after 4.3 billion years, which represents Lord Brahma's night, Lord Brahma awoke, and these sages, including Narada Muni, appeared with him. So how far are we into this day of Lord Brahma? About halfway? About halfway, isn't it? 28, no, we're in the 28th out of 71. So let's say we're about 1/3 into, a little more than 1/3 into this day of Lord Brahma. So what's 1/3 of 4.3? About 2 billion. Let's say 2 billion, whatever it is. Anyway, so he's been doing this, but that's superficial. That's, it's a superficial understanding, because actually we get information from a purport in this section where Prabhupada says, where was it? Yeah. Here it is. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, the birth and activities of the Lord are all transcendental. Okay. Therefore, according to authorized opinion, the birth of Narada as the son of Brahma is also a transcendental pastime. His appearance and disappearance are practically on the same level as that of the Lord. See, so in other words, he is a Nityasiddha. He's an eternally liberated associate of Krishna. That's the real proper, the most philosophically proper way to understand Narada Muni. Not to think of him as somebody who was once the son of a maidservant, and he, got lucky and he heard from the Bhaktivedantas and got to taste the remnants of their food. That all happened. But even beyond that, it's a pastime. Because beyond that, he is a Nityasiddha. He's an eternally liberated associate. He's somebody who's descended from the spiritual world on a mission. And as mentioned here, his appearance and disappearance are practically on the same level as that of the Lord. It's a pastime. That's his level. So, getting back to the original point I was making, that in this section of the Bhagavatam, we're hearing from, these are like the 2 topmost all-star, on the all-star team Hall of Famers. You're hearing from Srila Vyasadeva, who is, in this particular round of millenniums, is none other than an expansion of Lord Vishnu. You're hearing from Narada Muni, who is a Nityasiddha, the associate of Lord Krishna. He figures in, he's in all the important pastimes. When you read through the Vedic literatures, he's all throughout the 10th canto. He's in that book, Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So as devotees, we should get real excited. It's like, this is an opportunity to hear imagine if you had an opportunity to hear a conversation between Srila Prabhupada and his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta. You just had, they were talking, and and you got the chance to go into the room, and you'd be like, oh man, I want to let me in on that room, let me in on that conversation. Right? So that's what's going on here. This is a really important thing, and basically it's a pastime. Narada Muni doesn't, Vyasadeva, he already knows, as I kind of mentioned, he already kind of figured out why he wasn't satisfied, and so he doesn't really need to be instructed by Narada Muni, and Narada Muni doesn't really need to instruct him, but it's a pastime. And what is this? What's the purpose of this pastime? First of all, what is a pastime? I looked it up in the dictionary. A pastime is something that a person doesn't have to do. You know, it's not like it's his job or his work or anything like that. It's something that he does for enjoyment. Like a pastime, somebody's pastime might be playing golf. Somebody else's pastime might be collecting stamps. Somebody else's pastime might be listening to classical music, just to give you an example. Those are pastimes, you know, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Okay, so what is the pastime of, what is Krishna's favorite pastime? What does Krishna do for fun? And what does Krishna, you know, do for a pastime? Well, now this is not something that's directly stated, but this is my understanding. Krishna's favorite, at least one of Krishna's favorite pastimes, is trying to deliver the fallen conditioned souls. That's what Krishna does for fun. Krishna enjoys being kinder and more merciful than he even has to be, and, you know, extending himself even beyond what he's already done to try to deliver the fallen, engage people who have strayed away from his devotional service back in his devotional service again. That's the pastime. That's the pastime here. That's what's actually going on here. That's the purpose. That's the underlying purpose between this conversation between Narada Muni and Srila Vyasadeva. It's part of, you know, a pastime of Krishna to try to engage fallen conditioned souls back in Krishna consciousness again. And the text 8 of chapter 5, the next chapter, there's one sentence here, I just stumbled upon it this morning. Prabhupada says, the Lord has expanded himself as living beings in order to accept loving service from them. And this alone can satisfy both the Lord and the living beings. So, you know, that's the underpinning of all these activities, that Krishna, he expands as the living beings. You know, Krishna's expanded himself. We're Vibhinamsa expansions of Krishna. Krishna's expanded as the living entities. Why? In order to accept loving service from them. He wants that relationship. He wants that, you know, loving service relationship. So when some of his spiritual offspring make the mistake of trying to be happy in some other way, Krishna is unhappy about that, and he tries to correct them. He tries to rectify that. That's his pastime. He doesn't have to, you know, he doesn't have to do it. It's not like it's his job or anything like that. He's obliged to. No. You know, he's already done his job by just expanding, giving us that opportunity in the first place, and then we mess up. But Krishna just, okay, let me just be even more merciful than I was in the first place by expanding as these living entities and try to, you know, get him back engaged in devotional service again. So that's so this is an amazing, you know, part of the Bhagavatam. You know, Narada Muni speaking with Srila Vyasadeva, and we're so fortunate to have the opportunity to you know, be able to tune in on this conversation and be, you know, privy to this, and we're actually even more fortunate in this international side of Krishna content, particularly here in New Dwarka, and well, and throughout North America. We have the opportunity to distribute it. That's a point I'd like to make. Okay, that, you know, this is, we're studying the first canto now. Okay, now of all the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's only one Srimad Bhagavatam that's available for mass distribution. I mean, full-on mass distribution, and that happens to be this 1:1. This beautiful, as in the words of, I don't know whose words it is, this beautiful Bhagavatam. It is, look at it, it's beautiful. Actually, Archita, my dear godbrother Archita, designed this cover. Well, Papa designed this cover, but he nicely put it in a, I don't know what you call this kind of cover, but it's, I love this book. This is a great book. Here it is, the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, part 1. So I'm getting to that. This is, by the way, this is a Maha big book. When it first was done, it was just a big book. They only had the first 7 chapters. It didn't have enough pages to qualify as a Maha big. So to accommodate the book distributors, the BBT got together. They had a meeting, and the trustees talked about it because they're very, you know, the standards. Prabhupada gave standards for his books, and they decided, okay, yeah, that's okay. They added the 8th chapter, so it also has the prayers of Queen Kunti in it. Okay, so it's a Maha big book. The temple cost price, I believe, is like $2.75, which is not expensive. There's a lot of them in the warehouse, and and they're moving slow. So I'm making a plug here, but it's actually in our own interest. I mean, just think about it. You have an opportunity to give this conversation of Narada Muni with Srila Vyasadeva and so many awesome other amazing things to people. Be honest with you, I find this book more easy to relate to and more. I like it better than even the Bhagavad Gita. I'm more attracted. If I had to choose, well, they're both awesome. I mean, that's a tough thing to say, but it's certainly on par. I mean, this is no stepchild. The Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1. When you give somebody a Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1, you are really giving them something that's potentially can change their life. I mean, turn their life upside down and really get them going on the spiritual platform like anything. So think about that. This is they're available. They're just it's one amazing opportunity we have, not just to read the book. Actually, and you know what? When you try to distribute it, you'll get more realization when you're reading it. That's how Krishna consciousness works, right? When you try to distribute Krishna consciousness, so you try to distribute this book, you're going to feel Krishna from within your heart is going to inspire you to kind of, aside from the fact that you're carrying it around all day, and it's natural to just open it up and read a little bit here, read a bit there, but you're going to get more of an inspiration, an impetus to read it, and you're going to get more realization. The more you try to distribute it to others, the more realization you're going to get yourself when you try to read it. So I guess I can just that's the introduction, and I guess I'll begin the class now. Actually, that was the introduction, but I got a little carried away there. But there was one point I'd like to make, though. Okay, so aside from these points I already made, Vyasadeva here is thinking like, as he said, I'm feeling incomplete, and in the purport, Prabhupada says, he says something interesting. I'll just make this one point and then end it because I don't want to go over time. He says, Srila Vyasadeva appeared to have lost the clue and therefore felt dissatisfaction. So, bringing it back home here, as I always try to do this, what's the lesson for us? What's the lesson for us in all this? Okay, well, so Vyasadeva's lost the clue and therefore he's feeling dissatisfaction. So I think the lesson for us is we have to try to think about, how does this relate to our situation? And I was thinking like that when I was preparing the class. I was thinking, well, what does that mean, lost the clue? What would be the equivalent of that for a devotee, losing the clue? And what I came up with was this: if you're forgetting that the point in everything we're doing is to please the spiritual master, you've lost the clue. Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text, I think it's text 40, Vyavisayatmika Buddha, he says the secret of success in devotional service is to please the spiritual master. See? So, to the degree that we're remembering that, and that's our underlying motivation in everything that we're doing, to that degree, we're going to feel satisfied. To that degree, we haven't lost the clue, and to that degree, we're going to feel satisfied. But to the degree that we're forgetting that, that the whole purpose is to, in all these activities, everything I'm doing is to please the spiritual master. To that degree, we've lost the clue, and to that degree, we're going to feel dissatisfied, like Srila Vyasadeva was expressing. Okay? And I'll take it one step further. That a very important thing in pleasing the spiritual master is also to work cooperatively with the temple authorities, or GBC or whatever authorities, to work cooperatively with authorities, because they're actually representing him. Maybe not perfectly. We're doing the best we can, but so if okay, this is how I'll lead into this one. This morning I was reading, I was looking at that purport, the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, text 10, where that Prabhupada gives Rupa Goswami's verse describing the stages of devotional service. Ado Shraddha Tato Sadhusanga Tata Anarta Nivritti Syat Tato Nishta Tato Ruchis, and it's describing how it starts off with faith, and then it goes to associating with devotees, and then bhajana kriya, and then engaging in devotional service, and then as a result of that, when you start properly engaging in devotional service and you take initiation, then anartha and vritti. And then after that, you become nishta, you become fixed in devotional service. And then after that, ruchi, you get a taste. Okay? So I was thinking that, you know what? Yeah, so somebody should be experiencing that. You know, you should be experiencing that if you're making progress in devotional service. But I was thinking to myself, you know what? I mean, I don't even know, am I experiencing that? And I thought, well, if I'm going to be honest, I mean, yeah, I guess a bit, but maybe not that strong. And anyway, this is a little controversial, but I'm going to say it because I'm hoping it's a realization and not like a concoction. But considering, you know, the position of people in the Kali Yuga now, I think it's you know, that's there. That's a guideline. But I think it's even as an immediate sign, as an immediate indication of how we're doing in devotional service. It's even more important to know that your authorities are pleased with you than to be perceiving those symptoms manifesting in yourself. Did you follow that point? Was that clear? In other words, we're so fallen. You know, people in Kali Yuga, we're so fallen that you won't even. You're not even necessarily going to experience that right away. We're that fallen. Mukunda was mentioning this in a class he gave about a month or two ago, you know. In other words, unless you're really properly engaging in sadhu sangha and then bhajana kriya, you're not going to maybe even experience in such a pronounced way anartha nivritti, nishta, and but so, and you might if you're doing things, you might, but you might not. But at least it might take some time. So as I said, a more immediate indication as to whether you're doing okay is if your authorities are pleased. If you're pleasing your authorities, then you can understand, I'm doing okay. Even if you're not feeling like a lot of anartha nivritti, a lot of freedom from material desires, and what to speak of nishta and ruchi. If your authorities are pleased with you, consider yourself doing okay. If your spiritual master, your temple president, if your spiritual master are telling you you're doing good, don't worry, you're doing good, then you're doing good. And then those other things will follow in due course of time. But don't get discouraged if they're not there like right away, because we're so fallen, we might not experience them right away, or even after some period of time. But at least this other thing you can know you can know it on a day-to-day basis. It's a very practical and very important way of measuring how you're doing in devotional service, if your authorities are pleased with you. So I hope that's what I said. I hope it's a realization, not a concoction. So I'll stop there and ask if anybody has any questions or comments. Yeah, Dr. Davis.
Cycle. And so we have every opportunity, we have every tool we need in order to come to the point where we can please our authorities. We have all the tools that we need, we have all the mercy that we need. We just got to grab onto the rope. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati talks about if you're in a well, someone throws you a rope. We have like 5 ropes hanging around us. Right. We can grab onto any one of them what we want.
So this is a comment, right? This is a comment?
Yeah, this is a comment. All we got to do is just grab onto that rope. We have so many opportunities, and now that I'm realizing this, we also have Srila Vyasadeva, who's Vishnu Tattva in this.
Right. According to the Vayu Purana, this Vyasadeva is not an empowered jiva, but he's an expansion of Lord Vishnu. At the same time, in this round of millenniums, Krishna was here 5,000 years ago. Vyasadeva, that's an expansion of Vishnu, etc., etc., etc. Lord Chaitanya, this is a special.
Yeah, we have so much opportunity, and if we don't utilize that opportunity, we're robbing ourselves of.
Yeah, we're really cheating ourselves. Yeah. You're right. I agree, 100%. Yeah.
Is there a Narada Muni in every universe?
I don't know. Anybody know the answer to that question? Is there a Narada Muni in every universe? Anybody remember anything they've heard along those lines? I don't know. We'll do some research and we'll get back to you. Yeah. Bhrgupati Prabhu.
Nice class, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to make a comment in terms of your last realization. I was just reading the fourth canto about the Prachetas, sons of Maharaj Prachinabarishat, who meditated in the water, underwater for 10,000 years. And at the end of that period, there's a nice picture in the Bhagavatam. It shows Lord Vishnu appearing on the back of Garuda in the water with all the demigods. And I thought it was very interesting that practically the first thing Krishna said when he gave the Prachetas his blessings, he said, "I'm very pleased with your cooperative attitude." He said, by your friendly relationship with others. He began his benedictions by saying that. And I thought that was very noteworthy, and that, I think, kind of further substantiates what you were saying. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good point. Gauranga Prem, and then we'll finish.
Thank you very much for your nice class. You were saying that one day of Brahma is 8.64 billion years, right?
8.6 billion years. Right.
And half of that is the night of Lord Brahma.
Yep.
I'm just wondering what will happen to our earthly planet, the sun, the moon, and the other stars during the night of Lord Brahma?
I think it's mentioned here. I got the impression from what I was reading this morning and here. It's been a while since I've kind of studied up on that. Let's see. Yeah. It says, and for the same period, Brahmaji rests at night in Yoga Nidra within the body of Garbhodakshai Vishnu, the generator of Brahma. So it seems like during the night of Brahma and I guess the universe rests in the body of Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Thus, after the sleeping period of Brahma, when there is again creation by the will of the Lord through the agency of Brahma, all the great rishis again appear from different parts of the transcendental body, and Narada also appears. So, based upon that, it sounds like everything goes into the body of Garbhodakshai Vishnu for the night of Lord Brahma, and then when that period is over, things come out again. Does that sound correct? Something different happens at the end of Lord Brahma's life, but that sounds like to me what happens at the end of his day.
But I heard that there was one time when Lord Brahma wakes up and he found that the earthly planet is no longer on its orbit, but actually it is sink in the ocean. Right?
Garbhodak Ocean.
Yeah. It looks like this universe doesn't go to the body of Lord Vishnu.
I don't know. We'll have to study up on that. Unless somebody really knows clearly what the answer to that question is.
Well, I just want to mention there are different devastations at different time periods. And one of the devastations, all the planets up to, I think, just under Lord Brahma's planet are all dissolved, and then it mentions that the demigods are on those highest planets. They all get in their airplanes and they go up to Lord Brahma's planet because their planet is getting like wiped out.
Right.
And maybe that's after the day of Brahma, but like you say, there are different devastations.
We'll have to do some research. Thank you. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.